I want to thank all of you for all of your support and everything. We have been rebranding. So we've rebranded from Teacup and Kettle to Steep Right Up, and I'm very excited about the rebrand because we have a lot of new things that are going to be coming about with the rebrand, and I can't wait to share everything with you all. I do want to get started here. I do have my notes. I brought notes because if I don't use notes, I'll get super sidetracked and then nobody will be able to follow anything. So we're going to get started here. First thing I'd like to talk about is there is a very definitive difference in quality among different types of teas, and one that everyone is familiar with is the tea bag. It's a little bit bigger than most tea bags for just a single cup of tea, but it's still the same type of tea. But I want to show you the difference in the quality, and I'll get some close-up pictures of this after the video. But in this tea bag, your tea bags are generally speaking an inferior quality to loose leaf teas. Loose leaf teas is what we sell. Usually, and I say usually because there's an exception to every rule, generally speaking, your bagged teas are made up of dustings, fannings. I know you're not going to be able to see in this video the size of the particle size. This is why I'm going to do a close-up picture, but you can, this is just like dust. It's like dust. It's just little teeny tiny particles of tea. The dustings and fannings, it could be what's swept up off the floor. It could be a later harvest. Tea leaves that are harvested later in the harvesting season generally are not as good of a quality as tea that is harvested early. And then, so I showed you that. That's a black tea. This is also a black tea. And I don't know if you can see in the video the difference in sizes. You can see that this is not little teeny tiny particles. There's a definite difference in the size. That's a black tea. And I'm going to show you a little bit of a green tea. And you're going to understand why I'm showing you these tea particle sizes in just a moment. So there we have a green tea. This is a black tea. It's an Ceylon tea. And then that is just tea dust from a tea bag. Very big difference. Like I said, I'll take some close-up pictures so that you can see the difference in the particle sizes later on. And I'll post it in the comment section of this video once we're done. So there are different types of bags. I know not everybody has the time or the availability to be able to use the different tea steepers that we're going to discuss today. If you do have to use a bag, these are unbleached paper bags. They come in a couple of different sizes, and this is the size that I would use. It's bigger, it gives more room, and I'll explain all of that in just a moment. So these are unbleached paper bags. This is a bleached paper bag, paper tea bag, and it has a drawstring, so it keeps the tea leaves inside. With these paper bags, you just fold the top over the outside of your cup, and it will keep the tea leaves inside of the bag. And then the other option for tea bags is a reusable tea bag. This is a muslin tea bag, and it can be reused. You just dump out you can put your loose tea, your expelled tea leaves, you can put them in your composting pile and then wash this and reuse it. So those are the different types of tea bags. Another one is a tea ball. I don't have a tea ball, but they're about that big. You can get them in the grocery stores. It holds about a teaspoon of tea leaves. I don't recommend the tea ball because there's not enough room for these tea leaves to actually open up and unfurl and get a good flavor. And so I don't recommend the tea balls. The tea bags I would recommend the least next to the tea ball. because you don't get a good proper flavor extraction. The next steeper that we'll talk about is this. This is a silicone tea steeper. You can see it has a big belly in there, and that gives room for the tea leaves to open up, unfurl, and to get a better flavor extraction. When you deal with the tea bags that you get commercially available, it's just the dustings. You don't get as much flavor profile extracted from them. It's usually a stale flavor. It's not as complex, whereas you can see the loose leaf tea is the whole leaf, so it has to have room to open up, and it doesn't have that room in the tea bags or in the tea ball. This is a big belly. It just sits right inside of your cup, and it gives you plenty of room for your tea leaves to open up and unfurl. This is fine for a single cup of tea. The next one that we have is a stainless steel. This is a much finer mesh than the holes on the silicone tea steeper. So the silicone one, you might get a few little pieces of tea in your infusion, whereas with the mesh tea strainer, the holes are much smaller, and you probably won't get any of the pieces of the tea leaf in your actual infusion. And again, this just sits in the cup. You put your tea leaves in there and you pour your water over. And this is a big belly. It's got plenty of room for these whole leaf teas to open up, unfurl, and to get a really good flavor extraction. So this one is a good option, and it fits in most cups. It will fit into. It may not fit into all of your teapots. It fits in that one. It'll fit in most of them, but if you have a smaller teapot, it may or may not fit inside of it. So, but the stainless steel fine mesh infuser is a great one. Now we're going to move on to teapots. There are teapots with infusers and teapots without infusers. So this is an example of a teapot that does not come with an infuser. So you would put your tea leaves in there and cover it and let them steep. But what you're going to have to do when it comes time to pouring off your leaves, you're going to need to take a mesh tea strainer, steeper, or a mesh strainer such as that, and pour off so that this catches your tea leaves so that you have it in there. And the reason it's important to do that is you don't want your tea to continue to steep. And we're going to do another video shortly on how to brew your tea, the best times to use the proper temperature of tea, the amount of tea leaf, all of that. We're going to do another video on that. Right now we're just focusing on our vessels. So this is the teapot system without the strainer, and you can also get a tea warmer and put a tea light candle inside, and you set it after you've decanted your tea. You just put it on top of that to keep your tea infusion warm. You can do the same thing with this glass teapot. So this is the next type of teapot. This teapot came with an infuser that is built in. So once you put your tea leaves in there, once you're finished steeping your tea, you want to remove that and set it aside. I always have some type of little vessel sitting off to the side so that I can set my infuser on so that it catches anything that, any drippings that may come out. So this is a teapot with a built-in tea infuser. A lot of these teapots you can get on Amazon. That's where I got a lot of my different teapots and teaware and everything. I don't currently have a lot of things available on our website, but we will eventually be adding some teaware. So the next thing on the list is the teacup and teapot set. Let me see, where is that? That is right here. So this is a cute little setup if you're just having tea all on your own. This is the little teapot at the top, and it has its own built-in stainless steel mesh strainer. So you would put the strainer in, you put your loose leaf tea, and then you pour your hot water that's heated to the proper temperature in there and close the lid. It's important that you always put your lid on your steeping tea because that retains the heat so that you get maximum flavor out of it. Once you're done, this cup is big enough to hold all of the liquid that's in there, so you just pour off your infusion into the cup and then sip it. Very easy to clean, very easy to use. Next we have, this is a new little teapot. I just got this off of Amazon. I have not used it yet, but I liked the concept behind it. It comes totally apart. This comes out and it's very easy to take apart in order to clean it. But it's basically the same principle. You put your tea leaves in there, you pour your water in, and then you put your lid on and you allow it to steep for the proper amount of time. Now once your tea leaves are through steeping, then you just push this little button and all of the water up here that is steeping your infusion will drop down below. You can leave it in this. You can take this out, you know, however you want to do it, and you just pour it into your cup of choice. I'm going to set that off to the side. The next thing up is a French press. French press is used, originally it was used for coffee, and it can be used for coffee, but this one can be used for tea also. It has a very fine mesh filter in there. So you would put your tea leaves in, and then you would put your filter in, pour your water, and leave it up, let it steep. When it's through steeping, then you just push it down, and it pushes all of the leaves down into the bottom of the French press. So now it's not going, your leaves are not going to continue to steep, and that's very important that your leaves don't continue to steep, because that draws out the bitter tannins of the tea, which again, we're going to have another video on proper steeping of your tea. So this is another method that can be used. Another one is cold brew, and I don't have my cold brew carafe. I forgot to bring it out here. Basically, your cold brew carafe, it's a glass carafe, and it has a built-in mesh strainer steeper that you put your tea leaves in, and rather than using hot water, you're going to use room temperature water, and then you're going to put it in the refrigerator and let it steep for 4 hours overnight. But the difference is in the flavor. Whenever you steep it that way, you don't have to remove the tea leaves after 3 or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, because it doesn't have the hot water, so it's not going to extract the bitter tannins. So cold brew is another method. It produces a much milder flavored tea. So next we have the Gaiwan. The Gaiwan, it's a traditional, this is your Gaiwan set, this whole set right here. It's a traditional Chinese brewing method. This is your bowl and your lid, and then you would have the saucer. This is one whole set, and this is what it's stored in, and everything is used. So your saucer, your bowl, your lid. You put your tea leaves in, rinse them, pour off the water into the base, and then you pour more tea. The difference between a Gaiwan and a traditional Western method of brewing tea, this is only going to steep for 10 to 30 seconds, usually about 10 seconds for the first steep, but you can get multiple steeps with it. So you would steep it multiple times, increasing the time by about 5 to 10 seconds each time that you steep. It produces a much mellower flavor, but a more rounded flavor. So you just pour it off into the little cups after it's through steeping, and then you can just set it aside. If it had tea leaves in there, it would sit on its side, but the lid's too heavy right now. So you just set it aside and you can let it dry, and then you can use it for multiple steepings. So that's the Gaiwan. I love the Gaiwan for darker teas, the pu'ers. I'm not a huge pu'er and dark tea fan, or even a black tea fan, but I love it whenever it's steeped in a Gaiwan, because it brings out just the right amount of flavors. The last one is the matcha. So matcha is a green tea. It's a powdered green tea, and this is a bamboo whisk. The spoon, the measuring spoon. I'm going to do a separate video on how you prepare matcha and how you drink matcha, but I wanted to at least have this out to show that it is an additional method of brewing. So other tools that I use a tea kettle. Ooh, it's hot from the sun. I do use a tea kettle. This is my tea kettle. It's a Cuisinart, And I love the fact that it already has your temperatures, your proper temperatures that you're steeping. So your delicate teas are at a lower temperature of 160, green teas are at 175, white teas around 185, oolongs 190, French press for coffees would be 200, and then your boil 212 for your black teas. So it's really kind of a no-brainer. You just put your water in, you mash the button for the proper time, and it heats your water up to the right temperature. No guessing about it, no thermometers to have to mess with or anything. So that is an absolute must-have. Another thing is your timer. It's really important because your best teas are going to be steeped for the proper amount of time. Again, we'll do that in another video. Now, some people measure their teas with a teaspoon. So you use 1 to 2 teaspoons per cup. And by cup, I mean 8 ounces, not a 16-ounce glass, but an 8-ounce cup of tea. You would use 1 to 2 teaspoons. Or the more accurate way is to weigh it out. And these little gram scales are very cheap on Amazon. And you would use 2 to 3 grams per cup, per 8 ounces of water for your teas. And your tea vessel, which you're drinking your teas out of, can be a simple little double-walled glass. We'll have custom tea tumblers that will be available very soon. So stainless steel, a regular coffee mug, your tea sipping vessel can be anything that you want it to be. Your favorite mug, whatever you'd like. So it just really, it is a personal preference. So that's all I have for you for today with these different vessels. And I will be taking some pictures of each individual vessel and posting them on the website. And I encourage you to share this video with your friends, your tea friends, or maybe someone that you want to introduce to tea. Share this video because it can be kind of confusing, all of the different tea brewing pots and methods that are out there. It can be very confusing with all the different types of tea. So feel free to pop your questions in the comments and share this with your friends. And